Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and today we are talking about the Dark Winchesters. Yes, all those times that Sam and Dean didn't have a soul or were possessed or just kind of went dark side. But before we get into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Kensing, and I started watching Supernatural from the very beginning. I've dabbled in some fanfic, and I mostly write queer romance, mostly MM, and a lot of my characters are thinly or not so thinly veiled versions of Sam and Dean.
Okay, Carole, Malcolm.
Hi, I'm the director of the Dragon Con Urban Fantasy Track, and we do cover.
Usually it takes longer than this to break Melissa.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's okay, Melissa, it's okay. And we do cover the show on the track, but aside from that, I have been a fan since it began. Like Anna, I watched it from the beginning, except Bugs. That's a whole different story. I've never seen it. I don't plan to ever see it. I'm perfectly happy with having seen 326 episodes multiple times, but not that one. And yes, I'm very happy to, what's that, Anna?
Bugs is underrated.
And I'm happy to be here talking about it some more. We just got done with our Rewind series in June. So it's, it's kind of nice to be revisiting the show for a little bit before con begins in September. So thank you for having me.
Oh, glad to have you here. Carole Stokes.
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I've been a fan since season 3. I started writing fanfic in 2012, and I adore doing panels on Supernatural.
Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa, the easily broken Melissa. It's been so long since I've done an elevator pitch. I don't even remember what to say except hi, and I'm on Twitter as Be a Dean's Girl.
Okay. Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann Wicker, and I'm a former journalist and writer and editor now, freelance writer and editor. And I came late to the Supernatural fandom, but immediately went down the rabbit hole, and here I am. And Supernatural, these Supernatural panels are a lot of fun to delve into the characters, and I really appreciate Gail and Continual having me as a panelist.
Well, we love having all of you, and this is so much fun. Ditto. I'm Sophie Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write male paranormal romance, but all my modern day characters could, Sam and Dean could walk into any of their worlds and feel right at home. I fell in love with Supernatural halfway through season 11 and fell down the rabbit hole, fell into fanfic, haven't stopped falling since, hope I never do. Melissa's broken again.
I don't think you've hit bottom yet, Gail.
I think we're in for a wild ride tonight.
I think we are.
It was Sam and Dean could walk into a world, and that just sounded like Sam and Dean could walk into a bar. And you said, I've heard you say that line a billion times. It never hit my funny bone. Like I said, easily broken.
It's going to be one of those wild nights. Hang on, folks.
Hang on tight.
So over the course of 15 years, 327 episodes, Sam and Dean both had plenty of opportunity to go dark side. Now, fortunately, they didn't stay that way, but we did have half a season here and there where the guys walked on the other side of the road. And so let's start with who's your favorite Dark Winchester, and then we'll go deeper. Carole, Malcolm?
Well, I remember you talked about it during one of our Rewind panels, the fact that when the actors were asked that Jensen had said that he was most disturbed by soulless Sam. And I've got to say that even though I'm glad they didn't make it go on longer than they did. I thought that it was really well done. I thought that Jared played it, you know, at first, you know, that there's something's off, and then it becomes apparent, you know, that there's something really, really off. And so I think that that one was so well done because it was so different from his regular character, that even though I wouldn't say it was my favorite, because as I said, I'm glad that it didn't last long. The fact that it, you know, that it was so well done, I think it makes it more memorable. Demon Dean, also everybody likes that, but let's face it, Demon Dean was pretty much Dean just unleashed. I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, because he still had that conscience kind of thing going on. So if you have to put those two things together now, and I'm not talking about Sam on the demon blood, that was weird, but the, but Soulless Sam I thought was really well done.
Okay, Carole Stokes.
I do agree that I think Soulless Sam was fantastic. It was a great performance by Jared. I liked the really slow build where we just had like, at first we're like, oh, Sam's back. And then we're kind of like, oh, what? You know, and bit by bit, we had these little crumbs that kind of led up to something's really wrong with Sam. So that was really great. I feel like one of the ones I would have loved to really see explored would have been Boy King Sam. We had a hint of the fact that this was Sam's, you know, as Azazel and Lucifer saw it, Sam's destiny was to become the Boy King of Hell. He was going to lead the armies, take over the world, all this great stuff. We never actually saw that on the show come to a fruition, which would have been just delicious. Fortunately, in fanfic, it's a much more well-explored avenue. There are many, many stories about the Boy King Sam, either various points in his life. Maybe he was younger, or he was older, or he was, you know, maybe he was taken as a baby and raised to be the Boy King. I mean, there's all kinds of different scenarios about him being the Boy King, and therefore including, you know, was Dean his enemy, or was Dean working with him, or was Dean trying to save him? And it's such a rich trope, and I really, really would have loved to have seen it even a little bit explored on the show. We never really got it. We had the hints where they kept saying, oh, he's going to be the Boy King, and we're like and then what is it in like season 14 all of a sudden where he's like, there's no more kings of hell, you have to come through me.
Right.
What a great moment that is. And he's so bamf in that moment, of like, that's it, you come through me, because really he would have been it. And we just got these little tiny tastes of what could have been such a rich, delicious storyline. So sadly not canon. Happily, many avenues to explore in fanfic, but just even the concept of the Boy King is really, really great. And just at least having set that up for us was, or I think, a real inspired moment on the showrunners.
And you know, the obvious thing looking back, when Dean was taken to hell, would have been for Sam to claim his title and march into hell for a heavenly cause.
And that's been explored. That is one of the many avenues, you know. I mean, there's easily so many, like, here's this nexus point of Sam is the Boy King, and then here are all these, you know, radiating spokes off of that, of different ways that could have gone. And yes, that's one of them. Dean's like, you know, either Dean's like, I've got to go into hell and save Sam, or Dean's in hell and Sam's like, I've got to go in and save Dean. And
yes, yeah. The road's not taken.
The road's not taken. So that would have been a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Melissa?
So many things to choose from, but Dean Michael, because I mean, just okay, hello, Dean girl. But and every time Jared played one of the alter egos, he did an amazing job. This is no knock against any of Jared's acting. It was phenomenal. But when Dean was wearing the Michael, or Michael was wearing Dean, I guess is a better way to put it, it was just brilliant. And also the costuming, come on, I'm not gonna knock that. And speaking of, looks, Sam, when he was Lucifer in Chicago with that white suit, and
Oh yeah.
like, I mean, that was just okay. Forget how he looks; it's kind of hard. But if you put that aside, just how he wasn't Sam, he wasn't Jared, he was Lucifer. So those two moments, I'll pick two because I'm greedy.
Okay. And
easily broken.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have to go also with Michael Dean. Jensen was just so amazing when he just put on, I mean, you still sort of saw Dean, but his whole demeanor when he's trying to, in the episode where he's trying to start the, with the vampires, and he's gonna use his grace and get them all jacked up, and he twists the knife in his hand. I was just like, oh my God, it was just so, it was so wonderful. And the way he would ask the different people what it is you want, and that was just amazing acting, I think. And my second favorite, of course, I'll digress a little bit. I liked Soulless Sam because he didn't wear a shirt a lot. And,
this is perfectly logical.
but and I agree with Melissa that the costuming for Michael Dean was amazing. And I like the whole idea too of when that they explained where Michael put Dean in a loop, so he was in Rocky's bar and trying to keep him from fighting back, and that whole part was really good too. Now, it's interesting what I think one of you said about Dean with the Mark of Cain and Night of Hell / Demon Dean as being Dean just unleashed.
Yeah, that was one.
And it just, that really strikes me because I compare it to Billy Butcher in The Boys. And that you see, even though I think by that time Kripke is kind of out of the, is Kripke already gone at that point? But no, okay. I see that Dean being unleashed, he doesn't have the governing thing that Sam gives him. He's wide open, and let's face it, as much as we love him, Dean is a killer, and he, although he killed bad things, and so it's just, but I think that again, Jensen did a really good job of unleashing Dean.
Yeah, when you asked about Kripke, I thought you were asking about The Boys. Yeah, Kripke was gone from Supernatural at the end of season 5. So he was long gone by the time we got Mark of Cain Dean or Demon Dean, but the influence certainly stays on. And now that we've seen Soldier Boy, we have an idea of where Demon Dean could have gone on HBO.
We're losing Melissa again.
Yeah, we're losing Melissa.
Yeah.
I want to put a shout out for Possessed Sam. And that can be Sam possessed by Meg, he was such a creepy bad guy when Meg was possessing him, and he was terrifying Joe, and he was shooting Dean, and he played that scene in the bar with Joe so disgustingly well. He really made your skin crawl, and that was, that's good acting. Also, all the times we got to see him as Lucifer, the first time in the end where he's in that white suit with the rose. Thank God he did not wear a white tux to his own wedding. I think the fandom wouldn't have been able to handle it. But, and then in season 15, when Chuck is showing them all these alternate Earths, and we don't know that for a while, Sam's just getting these visions, and we see him revisiting Samifer, Sam, whatever you want to portmanteau. But and there was one promo scene where we saw everybody was saying, "Oh, doesn't Dean looks so good with that glow behind him." We did not realize Sam was setting him on fire. So, but to step back into that alternate persona after 8 years and just nail it. And he did it so seamlessly. It was like he had never been away from it. And again, he had that menace to him that was really great. And I thought he did a terrific job with that. And Demon Dean, he didn't wear shirts sometimes too. That was fun. Anna, how about you?
So yes, big fan of Dean with Mark of Cain, even before he becomes a demon, and then after he's cured from being a demon. Love him as a demon, but also like that's the thing about the Mark of Cain is that I think at some point God tells, I think it's Lucifer, that the Mark of Cain doesn't change a person, but just intensifies and amplifies characteristics that the person already has. So we know that Dean is aggressive. We know that he has knife skills. And so the Mark of Cain just takes Dean's natural characteristics and turns them up to 11, right? So he's more aggressive and he is more likely to kill, and he's less concerned about consequences and collateral damage and things like that. But he still does retain sort of that, kind of core of morality that is uniquely Dean. And he does try to keep a hold on things, and so he kills people who deserves it, except he sometimes can't stop himself after killing the people who deserved it. But so he kills Lester, right? So Crowley sends him off to kill Lester's wife because Lester made a deal with Crowley, and Dean sitting there
He's been
in the
summoned.
car. Dean sitting there, and Demon Dean is sitting there in the car with Lester, and he realizes that the reason why Lester is there is because he's actually a total scumbag. So Dean just guts him instead. But I also like, in terms of Sam, I think my favorite, because I made a list of all the Dark Winchesters, and I actually didn't include any of the Winchesters when they were possessed by Michael or Lucifer, and there's so very many other options besides the ones where they're possessed by Michael or Lucifer. And I think for Sam, my favorite is in the Mystery Spot episode after Wednesday comes, when Sam is Sam. He's not possessed by anybody. He's not hopped up on demon blood. He is just Sam, and he has a soul, and he is still the most single-minded shell of a human who doesn't care about anything but Dean, and super hot.
Yeah, I love Gabriel's comment. Anybody who thinks Dean is the dangerous one has never seen you with a sharp object in your hand. Holy flumen jacket. And that's true. He just goes complete Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
There's no pity. Huh?
He has such a force of concentration. Like Dean's more of that whole blunt object thing, whereas Sam is like laser focus. Uh, he will go as deep as it needs. And that
Well,
can be really terrifying.
and if you compare Sam in Mystery Spot in that missing 6 months, and Sam when he is determined to get Dean back from being a demon, not much has changed.
No,
He-
he
he's
tortures
older.
demons. He's the one who convinces Lester to make the deal with the Crossroads demon, which then sets up Dean killing Lester instead of his wife. Sam's behind that whole scenario.
Yeah. And that single-minded focus. I've always said that when Dean loses Sam, Dean becomes self-destructive. When Sam loses Dean, Sam burns down the world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely see a difference. It's not that the brothers aren't both intense, but the intensity takes a very different direction.
Yeah.
So kind of going from the beginning, we've mentioned the boy king of hell. Then we get Sam the blood junkie, which of course gets kicked off by the trauma of losing Dean. So here again, we have, I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to, if I can't save him, I'm going to avenge him. And I don't care if the world burns, which it nearly does. Any thoughts about, blood junkie Sam?
Well, I think one of the hallmarks of Blood Junkie Sam is he wants to avenge Dean and everything, and maybe still even get him out of hell, but he still also feels that he's actually doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't care about damning himself, but he can save these people. He can maybe pull the demons out and these people have a chance to live if the demon hasn't already wrecked the body a la Meg, where by the time they got the demon out, Meg was already. So he's actually thinks he's doing the right thing because he's going to pull these demons out and the body count will be lower. Now, he's fooling himself. But he doesn't know that at first because he does still, have a very strong conscience. He has a very strong sense of morality. And he's really trying to kind of do both things at once in terms of, I want to figure out a way to save Dean and I want to not kill people, but I want to be able to put the kibosh on these demons and stuff. And he kind of doesn't realize that it's all going badly. But as he starts out, he's got a moral directive there. He's not simply embracing darkness to be dark and no holds barred as he does, for instance, later on when he's trying to rescue Demon Dean, for instance. Then he really doesn't care. He'll torture the demons, he doesn't care. But earlier, this is much earlier seasons, Sam, and he does care, and he is trying to, juggle both directives at once.
Okay.
It is interesting. Go ahead.
It also really does seem to be colder than previous seasons and less emotional, more willing to lie to Dean. He seems like there's episodes where it seems like he really is pretty cool with collateral damage and incidental loss of human life. He tortures Alistair when Dean fails to get the information that they need out of him, and so and he at the end of the season, at the end of season 4, he's fighting with Dean, physically, fisticuffs with Dean over drinking all the blood and going after Lilith, and he nearly strangles Dean, right? So there's a point at which with the demon blood that Sam, I think, loses his moral compass. Yes, I agree with you. It starts out in the beginning of that season and that he has this moral compass, that it's about exorcising demons and keeping the human host alive, except that there's a lot of human hosts who die while he's practicing that trick. And, you know, I mean, it's just,
But they were just practice, yeah.
right, they're just practice, right?
Uh.
Like you can't make omelets without breaking some eggs, right? You can't learn how to exorcise demons without killing the host, without killing a bunch of human hosts in the meantime, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, like he starts off thinking that he has this moral compass and these moral reasons for doing this, but I don't know, by the end, it really is just about killing Lilith and damned to anyone, including Dean, who gets in his way.
Well, you know, road to hell paved with good intentions and all of that.
And he does keep it a secret. I mean, you know, he had to know it was wrong because, or that it was a bad idea, or however you want, you know, whatever terms you want to couch it in. If you think about the fact that you've both said that he got progressively worse, you know, in terms of his demeanor, his attitude, his, you know, he may have been telling himself he still had the same purpose in mind, but the way that he went about it and what he was willing to do, you know, the cost he was willing to have it be, that kind of goes hand in hand if you think about the way that the human blood changed Crowley, who's now been summoned
Mhm.
again. Please notice his little coffee cup. Anyway, sorry, folks, that was a thing during Rewind. It was every time anybody said his name, he had to appear. So I made sure he was handy tonight. You know, so it would have the opposite effect, one would assume. You know, if human blood made Crowley progressively more human, well, then demon blood is going to make Sam progressively more like a demon, where you do, you know, you lose some of that sense of what you normally would consider right and wrong. So, you know, I think there were I mean, there were times you just wanted to smack him. It's like, I don't care why you started doing this. You have to know by now that it's a bad idea.
Well,
Well,
and there's
everybody told him, including
Yeah.
Chuck.
there's that great moment where he and Dean are on the astral plane because nobody's dying, and Pamela comes to watch over them. You know, she first assists
Oh,
them
yeah,
into
yeah.
the astral plane, and then she's watching over them. And when they come back, and she says to Sam, "You think you're doing the right thing,
Mhm.
but you're not. You're not doing it. You're not doing the right thing, and you're not doing it for the right reasons." I mean, she's like really spells it out right there, you know, before she dies. And he's really taken aback by her comment. Not enough to stop, but
Mhm.
it makes a palpable hit on him.
They really did a good job of incorporating an addict's behavior with all of
Mhm.
this, because
Yeah.
you know, it's like it starts out, I'm just, you know, doing this as a practical thing, and then you can just see that addiction running through everything
Mhm.
else. I really appreciated that through line in that
Mhm.
plot.
Okay. Ann Wicker, anything to add?
Not really. You did touch on, though, the part where I think, Anna, you were talking about all the little ways that they went dark, or the shorter, more minor ways they went dark. Anyway, I thought when Dean was torturing Alistair, that gave us much more insight beyond what he had told Sam in one of the BOM moments at the end of the show. But it really, you know, that really showed us what he went through in hell and what he did after he got off the table.
Mhm.
And that you're like, mm-hmm. And
He
again,
tells
that's
Cass.
just more Dean than Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tells Cass, you're not going to like what walks out of this room if you
Mhm.
have me do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is like even Dean in hell, after the 30 years of resisting Alistair and his torture, And when he finally breaks, he tells Sam that he enjoyed it, and that, you know, because all of those years, all of that pain, and he finally gets to deal some of that himself. And he didn't care who they put in front of him, because the pain that he felt, it just slipped away. And it's really, like, it's not super, super different from the previous perspective that he had up in the early seasons about being a hunter, right? It's fine to torture demons and monsters and to kill them, because they have done terrible things too. And so it's justice, right? It's justice both when he is, before any of these things, these terrible things happen to him, when in the early seasons, season 1 and season 2, it's justice to treat monsters this way, and it's justice to treat human souls in hell this way after what he's been through. And so these are consistent personality traits of Dean, sort of looking at the world in this kind of way.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, we also got to see the boys' dark side when they weren't completely themselves. We had Shifter Dean, who it was a shifter taking Dean's face and body, but there was the shifter got inside his head and knew who he was impersonating. Then we also got to see Leviathan Sam and Dean, who, again, you know, it wasn't Sam and Dean, but the Leviathan got, you know, read enough of them to
knew them so well.
Yeah, that was so funny. I had forgotten about that, but yeah, that's
When they're sitting in the diner
Yeah.
talking, you know, well, do you want to trade?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And you know what this one thinks? You know what this one thinks about you? And yeah, that was it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the phraseology, but the way the Leviathan Sam talks about how Sam's always eating these salads. It's like, you know, these greens, you know, that are dressed with despair or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so it's something like that.
Oh my God, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, and then you see Shifter Dean, who is, you know, all those AU fanfics where Dean is a serial killer. That's Shifter Dean, because we really saw that complete lack of moral compass and Shifter out for his own purposes. And, you know, Jensen played that brilliantly. And you know, one of the things that comes down to with all of these is Dean's eventual epiphany that we keep each other human, because we are getting to see, except for the Leviathans, which isn't really them, we don't really see both boys go dark side at the same time. One of them is always bringing the other back from the abyss. And speaking of the abyss, does Purgatory Dean count as dark side?
I think so, because, you know, like, he is just surrounded by monsters. He talks later when he's brought back about how pure it was and how clean it was, that all he had to do was fight monsters, and that he didn't have to think about right and wrong, and he didn't have to think about whether it was a good thing that he was doing. It was just killing. It was just fighting. And that in sort of in some way for Dean was refreshing, right? Like, and so I do think that really counts as a dark Winchester, right? He's not possessed. He's not supernaturally affected by anything other than the location, right? Like, he's been supernaturally transported to this location, but he is still himself, and there's nothing different or unusual about his, like, he hasn't been his personality hasn't been affected. And yet in Purgatory, he just embraces that hunter.
It's like he's really stripped down. There is no veneer of civilization. There's no
There's no Sammy.
of morality or anything. It's just, he is stripped down, you know, to the basic kill or be killed, and man, he's going out killing. You know,
and he likes it, and he
likes it.
Like,
yes, it's very simple, very easy,
and he feels like this is where he belongs.
It's clear cut. It's much easier to do what they have to do if there's no gray. you know,
Mhm.
because that's the trouble that they've had the whole series is where, you know, not as much in the first 2 seasons or partway through the second season where they start having, you know, thoughts about, okay, when they're actually questioned, well, why do, you know, where do the ghosts go? You know, after you kill, well, we don't know, you know, and things like that. But in purgatory, if something is after you and it's trying to kill you, you're just defending yourself. There's no, you know, there's no black or white there. It's not because you're tracking something down and then have to make the choice of how do you, you know, how do you deal with them. And so yeah, I can that I think that's why it appealed to him so much, because it was much easier than having to make any kind of a judgment call. You're just saving yourself at that point.
It's like if you think about the episodes with Gordon, you know, you have talk about your gray, you have Lenore the vampire who's actually not killing people and trying to live a moral life. And then you have Gordon the hunter who's ostensibly the good guy, who's
Right.
actually more monstery and more horrific because of his ruthlessness and his inability to see gray, you know, where he finally blurs into like he can only see Sam as, you know, as an evil being. So that's, you know, your quintessential, I think, episode of where's the line,
Oh
where's the
yeah.
line, who's white, who's black. And yeah, so purgatory, man, forget that stuff. It's all black, just go for it. If it's not black, it's red.
Or both.
Now, we also had Sam possessed by Gadriel, in which he killed Kevin and did some other pretty awful things. It's Sam's body, but like when Michael locked Dean away in Rocky's bar, Sam was locked away somewhere as well. And I think it's fascinating that you can look at pictures and without anything, just from the expression, tell that's Sammy, that's Lucifer, that's Gadriel, that's Sola Sam.
Yep.
You know, Jared just did such a great job with that, just like Jensen did with his alternate personas. But what's there to say about Gadriel?
He
I mean,
was,
Boo.
go ahead.
I was just thinking about, you know, Gadriel's background, you know, being, what was it? He was the angel that let the snake into the garden. Is
Yes.
that
yes.
it? Yeah. I thought I remembered that. And then he was imprisoned for millennia.
Ever. Yeah.
And until Metatron opened up the gates and all the angels fell. So you've got to wonder, you know, he seemed to want to do something about redemption, and thought that maybe helping the Winchesters would be redemption, but then he falls for Metatron's whole line. And I'm just like, wait a minute, you know, so I don't know. I didn't really like the whole Metatron story arc either, but Gadriel Sam, again, like you said, Jared did a wonderful job, but it just really, Gadriel was so torn, I think, and then duped by Metatron. So into doing those horrible things in Sam's body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel that Gadriel was less, he wasn't intrinsically evil, but yeah, he was duped, he was manipulated, and, you know, he's coming out of one of those very black and white viewpoints. You know, all he knew was, this is good, this is bad, you know, the garden's good, the snake is bad, oops, I messed up.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
been stuck in jail for, millennia, so
Right,
I
and
don't
so
have a whole
he
lot.
hasn't had any, he's been locked in this thing forever, and so has no, no further growth there. So when he
Yeah.
comes out, he's ripe for that manipulation, and so he does bad things, but it's not because he himself is necessarily bad. He's just clueless and stupid.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, assuming he didn't get caught up on the news of what was going on in heaven while he was in angel jail.
Angels.
Metatron was the scribe of God. The last he knew, Metatron was a good.
Right.
So now here he is, finally sprung loose from jail, needing to atone for, the Garden of Eden, just kind of a biggie. And the scribe of God says, you can do this. You can be redeemed if you do these things. It took him a while to realize that Metatron wasn't good, which, given how he had been sequestered for so long and what he last knew of Metatron, isn't that far off to be hoodwinked, at least at the beginning. Well, folks, we are coming into the last bit here. Which Dark Winchester haven't we talked about?
I know one.
Okay.
How about Mary when she was under the mind control? She's still a Winchester.
Oh,
Yeah.
What a point.
And yeah, I was thinking about that earlier and how really disturbing that is, especially having met Samantha Smith and knowing what a sweet, wonderful person she is. And to be, regardless of what I know there are varying ideas of Mary Winchester, Gail, in terms of lots of things to do with the character itself, but playing that, that was, that was good. She really, at that point, it was okay to not like her, and yet you felt bad for her because you knew it wasn't her. So, but I thought that was very affecting. And for the boys, to have to see their mom like that.
Well, we also had John possessed by Yellow Eyes at the end of season 1. And so, whatever you think of John Winchester's A+ parenting, it's certainly better.
we broke Melissa again.
Yeah, it was coming. Yeah.
And what can we say after that? He became Negan, so the slide toward the dark side was complete.
Kept going, yeah.
I think what I want to also mention, we talked about, various dark deans, but the dean that we saw in the end was really, you talk about that dean in various points has been stripped down like it was in purgatory or, as a demon and stuff. But here it was just Dean. There was no possession. There was no supernatural force at play. It was just Dean. And yet he got to the point where he could toss his fellow fighter a beer to say good job and then turn around and shoot him because he knows the guy's going to go Croatian crazy, But
not Croatian.
I'm sorry, Croatian. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I love Croatia. No, Croatian crazy, and didn't blink an eye. And our dean is horrified. He's like, how could you do that? Didn't face him in the least. And that's where our dean really realizes that it was Sam who helps him hang on to that humanity that keeps him from going down that path where he can just gun somebody down in the blink of an eye and not even give 2 cents about it.
Yeah. And there are points at which Sam doesn't hold to Dean as his moral compass either, or the same way that Dean holds to Sam as his moral compass. So the number of times that Sam lies to Dean about drinking the demon blood, that he doesn't search for him after purgatory, that he lies to him about the Book of the Damned and how he's working with Rowena, which results in Charlie getting killed. Like, Sam lies to Dean a lot when he's not possessed. When he's not possessed by Lucifer or by Gadriel or by anybody else, he's just kind of dark sometimes. Sam
He's
is.
kind of
Even
dark,
when
but there
he's-
again, I think in most of those situations, he always thinks he's doing something towards the greater. Like, he wants to save Dean, and so he doesn't tell Dean about the grimoire, and then yes, the cost is that Charlie dies. So some of those, it's not so much that he's not trying to go dark. He's just so single-minded that he doesn't allow for what the possible ramifications are.
Well, I
Which
think
is curious because
It's so
because they're
single-threaded.
both. Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that that's
Mhm.
curious because the show is sort of set up with like Sam being the emotionally available one, the one with nuance, the one who sees things initially in shades of gray, whereas Dean is just a monsters bad, humans good. We kill monsters, we don't kill humans, and Sam has never been that black and white ever, really, and he never turns to be that black and white. Like Dean's shades of gray, develops sort of as the season goes, and like he kills Amy Pond and realizes later that he shouldn't have, but Sam,
But
yeah.
Dean lies by omission.
He does.
Sam comes straight out and lies, but Dean withholds information a lot.
He does.
And I think, if you want to look at them as birth order, that is a very oldest child, youngest child kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
Dean learned from John to, it's a need to know basis. And that it takes him a long time to get over that programming, to realize that he's lying by omission and he's withholding. No, he's just protecting. No, he's withholding. Sam with the puppy eyes and can I have the Lucky Charms and the little brother, the youngest child learns to manipulate.
Yeah, this is true.
They don't have
This
the
is totally
power
true.
of the oldest child. They don't have the Marsha angst of the middle child. I guess Sam is the middle child with once Adam shows up. But for all intents and purposes, Sam has Jan Brady. But
Adam.
I think Sam has learned to manipulate, and part of that is twisting the truth, Well, folks, we have looked for our time, as always. Melissa, you've been trying to say something, so come on.
The darkest Dean that we had was towards the end of season 15 when he pulled the gun on Sam because he wanted to kill Chuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. That was the one darkness that I found it really out of character and couldn't quite believe it. But to me, if we're going to talk about just, they wrote it, so we have to believe it. That to me was the darkest Dean we got.
Well, and his willingness to kill Jack, that you're not family,
I don't know. Jack's not Sam.
To really bad writing, but it is canon. So yeah, I agree. That is very dark, Dean. And again, we've got that session, which is where both boys go off the rails. Well, folks, there's been a great conversation. I think we could probably go on even longer, but we're out of time. So before we wrap, let's let everybody say where people can find you online, starting with you, Anne.
Well, I'm on Twitter as Ann Wicker, no spaces, and I'm on Instagram as Ann.Wicker2, but I'm always on Facebook just as Ann Wicker, and I'm in the Team Free Will NC group, and I'm here on Continual.
Awesome. Melissa?
On Twitter, Bia_Deans_girl. Stalking on AO3, all of my favorite writers, and trying not to cause trouble in the TFWNC Facebook group that you moderate.
Oh, where's the fun in? Carole?
Yes, the best way to find out what's going on with the track is via Facebook. If you just go to Facebook and put in Dragon Con Urban Fantasy, you will get the track and follow the page. We've got lots of things going on all year round in terms of news and stuff like that. It's the page is active, but especially right now, since Dragon Con actually happens in 40 days or fewer. I don't even want to know at this point. And it's coming very soon. So I hope that I will see some of the folks watching this there. And you can also find some of our past the Supernatural Rewind panels that we did, one for each season for over the past year and a half. And you can find those on YouTube. Again, just go look for DragonCon Urban Fantasy, and there you are. And then you can also see Gail and Carole Stokes as well.
Yes, and Carole Stokes.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here on Facebook as Carole Stokes, and you can see me a lot in both Continual and in the TFWNC group. I'm on Twitter as true_firesign10, and all of my fanfic is on AO3 under firesign10. Mind the tags.
And Anna.
You can find me at my website, annakensing.com, and on TikTok at Anna Kensing Books.
And I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com, all the social medias, a variation of those. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook. I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, and I'm on DragonCon Urban Fantasy Supernatural panels, but mostly I'm here on Continual. So thank you all so much for being wonderful panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more Supernatural coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.